Listen.
Welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat, episode 367. We have an amazing show for you today, and I have a wonderful panel with me as well that I'm going to introduce in 1 second. But before we get there, here are the topics that you will get from us this week. We are going to talk about all the new game announcements for the Nintendo Switch, and there were actually a couple of them. Some small games, but also some bigger ones. We're going to talk about Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which some of us got to play, some didn't. And we will talk about another wonderful game that we're looking forward to. We haven't forgotten about our 3DS audience. That's, of course, Metroid Samus Returns. But before we get to all that good stuff, I want to introduce the panel. I'm Per Schneider, your host today. With me, I have Miranda Sanchez.
Hello.
Brian Altano.
Hello.
And Zach Ryan.
Hello.
Guys,
We did three weird hellos. It was a good hello. I was trying to get the. I realized I couldn't get the wave the same way. It's tough like wave.
But you know what? The important thing is we tried.
Next time I'm gonna do a extra weird one.
You guys are creeping me out.
I'm there. I'm trying it.
So in case you have been, you've been asleep for a couple of years, it is the year 2017. Correct. Somehow, Nintendo is doing well again. The dark years appear to be over. You know, sales data came in last week. You heard how well games like Splatoon are doing in Japan. This last week was no exception with Splatoon, again, topping the charts everywhere. So it's a good time to be a Nintendo fan. And there are actually new games coming out as well.
I like the idea of waking up from like a 4-year coma and you're like, what are people playing? Mario Kart, Splatoon, Zelda, and Super Mario. And he's like, oh, I never woke up, did I?
Yeah, and you know, the other day I was listening to GameScoop, and Justin kind of had the opinion that between Zelda and Mario, there's not a lot in the middle that, you know, he's excited about. And,
what? I would have smacked the mic out of his hand in that show.
Yeah.
Well, you know, my old man used to tell me all the time, Justin's opinions are bad.
Whoa.
Wow.
How did he forget about Stardew?
Huh?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we're going to cover here too,
there's
like
so many other
Rabbids,
things, too.
Metroid.
Are we doing like a Biggie Tupac thing with GameScoop right now?
That's right.
Shots
fired.
Oh, no.
So I actually think that viewpoint. I've heard that viewpoint from a lot of people when looking at this month, for example, and of course Mario plus Rabbids is coming out this month, and I think a lot of people don't see this as a big game. We'll get to that in a second. I think that a lot of people are not taking this seriously and are looking at it like Sonic and Mario at the Olympics, or kind of a game that may give you some fun with multiplayer, but might not be as deep as kind of a traditional Nintendo release. We'll get to that, but before that, I wanted to go over the latest news, and there's been a lot that's been happening in the world of Nintendo. First of all, game announcements. Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 are coming to Nintendo Switch this year in 1080p. It's coming out, the collection is coming out on PlayStation and Xbox One. Before that, it's coming out in August. The Switch version will be later. There's no definitive date yet. Did any of you guys play Revelations?
I played the
before?
original Revelations, yeah. I didn't play Revelations 2,
Okay.
but I did play the first Revelations, and I like it a lot. In terms of like a sort of, not an old school Resident Evil game, but like an older feeling Resident Evil game. Like more so than 5 or 6, and especially different than 7. I feel like it does have sort of an older school Resident Evil feel.
I agree. It takes some of the sort of like action and sort of traversal and camera elements of 4 and mixes it with some of the more survival horror stuff from the original ones.
From 1 and 2 especially,
There's a
But it's
weird,
not
like,
the fast-paced kind of
No, it's
Resident
not.
Evil.
It's not
more
like an
the
action game. It's more along the lines of survival horror. Yeah.
It's definitely got moments of that. It launched originally, I believe, on the 3DS. And then those games, it got a sequel and then got ported to pretty much every platform at some point. The sequel, I believe, was episodic for a minute there.
Yeah.
So now they're all kind of bundled together. So we heard recently that Capcom obviously sold 500,000 copies of Ultra Street Fighter on Switch. So the Switch is a great system to sort of bring some, drag and drop some games over. This is cool news. I'm kind of bummed out about it because this means that we're not going to get Resident Evil 4 on Switch for a while.
I know that would be the game to replay on the Switch. I'd be really excited about. But what you mentioned is true, right? We're past this era where third parties can say, "Well, we want to wait and see if games actually sell on Switch." No more wait and see.
Which
games are selling.
Which is kind of crazy to me because if Capcom is going to support them with Resident Evil, it's sort of surprising me that they wouldn't bring 4, considering they just brought 4 to PlayStation and Xbox
and
last
who knows,
year
maybe we'll
in
get
1080.
it, but
or was that 2 years ago? Was that 2015? 2016.
well,
I think it was
both.
last
You
year.
just
Yeah.
woke up. It's the year 2017.
So yeah, I don't know what day it is. So
How's Nintendo doing?
I forgot what month it was today.
Yep,
I was just like,
yep.
wait, it's August.
So the whole package is $40, and it you can buy it at retail, and it includes Revelations 1, but Revelations 2 is actually a download code.
Cool.
You download the game. It does not come on your cartridge.
Oh, that's a weird.
yeah. That's
a
weird.
weird product for people who collect box retail games. Then
Well, I guess you'll have the package.
The box probably has both of them on it.
But
It's just that code.
If you resell it, it's only half.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
Another game announced was Gear.club.
oh, that
or
is that the official title? I
Gear
thought you
Club.
just put a period in the
No.
middle.
Yeah, I thought it was Gear Club.
Yeah.
It's a website actually. Gear.club.
Yeah. So that's coming to Nintendo Switch Q4 2017. No date yet.
Yeah.
It's from Microids and Eden Studios. Do you guys know Eden?
Nope.
Yeah.
They go way back. If you remember V-Rally, they did some of the test drive games back in the Infogrames. Can you sing the Infogram song? Anybody?
No.
No, I
Nope.
think that was it right there. What
look
you
up
just did.
look up the Infogram song. That studio, Eden, actually shut down when it went. Infogrames went under. Pieces got purchased by Atari and so forth. Atari closed down Eden Studios. Eden Studios got rebooted, and this was their first game, and it was for iOS and Android. So it's not.
Okay.
It's a racing game. Looks kind of Gran Turismo-ish with a little, where you collect supercars, you build your own garage, and you want to collect and
So
customize
it's
your
sort of
rides.
simmy. It's like super.
Yeah,
okay.
they're touting it sort of as the first realistic racing game on Switch. Because if you look at sort of the history of racing games on Switch, you've got Mario Kart, obviously.
Yep.
You've got Cars.
Are you telling me that you don't consider Mario Kart 8 a realistic racing game?
Depends.
on Nintendo Switch?
I mean, it is for them, right? They're in it. They're dealing with
that's
it.
true.
Real banana physics.
And then there's
Real upside down racing.
the one at launch, the F-Zero clone that I'm totally drawing a
It's
blank
a
on.
fast remix,
Fast.
Fast
Thank you.
RMX.
Yeah, so it's Cars, Mario Kart, and Fast RMX. So
Right.
really everything's been sort of like futuristic or weird or a normal looking car with eyeballs on it.
Yeah, they were, and Nintendo platforms really haven't been home to kind of a franchise the way that you have with Xbox. You have Forza,
Yeah.
right? You have kind of like the core sim racing series. PlayStation has Gran Turismo, and then there are all these third-party titles coming out. This is a weird one because it comes from a mobile pedigree. So
Right.
from systems that did not have sticks and buttons,
Yeah.
and so very much focused on tilt racing and a little simplified. But I wouldn't write this one off because it was when it came out, it was one of the prettier racing games. It's not the best racing games on mobile, but it was definitely pretty, and it's not dumbed down. You can customize your cars, you can change your tires and your wheels, you can change engine.
What about my
soup 'em
tire
up
pressure?
and all that?
There, that's
Yep.
a big thing for me. Is
I
tire
know
pressure.
you really care about that customization. So we'll see how this one turns out. I mean, it should hopefully look a lot better than what we got on mobile platforms, but
I just created a whole alternate universe where Brian also hosts a podcast about tire pressure.
Yeah.
Listen to Under Pressure Tuesdays on.
I know surprisingly little about cars for being like an Italian guy from New Jersey. Yeah. I'm really bad at that stuff.
where can we find you podcasts? Is it in the games and hobbies category?
That's right. Yeah.
That's where we put everything. No, I think it's pretty cool that this is happening because I feel like little by little the Nintendo Switch is getting kind of all of its genre bases covered, and I think at one point we'll be able to look up and be like, all right, it's got arcade racing, it's got like sim racing, it's got like wrestling and sports and everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, for people like us, not historically the kind of games I buy all the time, but
My only worry is that we'll dip more and more into kind of like the mobile port category, which.
That's been happening a lot, it seems like,
Yeah.
too. So I could see the concern for that.
And it
but-
happened
Yeah,
to Vita too, right?
We talked
And-
about it
Sure.
a couple of weeks ago. Like, I think that the general consensus, at least on our panel, was that if they're going to bring mobile ports over, at least give us something that like is a little bit of an upsell
Yeah.
for
Right.
that kind of stuff. So
And I think I'm cool with this one because I really hate using tilt controls for racing games, and so whenever I play a racing game on a phone, I'm like, or on the iPad, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, I'm the
And
same way.
which is weird because it's closer to a steering wheel than a stick is, obviously. But
I kind of hope Gameloft brings over some of the asphalt racing games because I
That'd be
think
cool.
those were really cool on iOS for a while and even back on 3DS.
you said asphalt. We talked
Yeah.
about this.
That's the
on
name of my show. You said
Is that
asphalt.
bad? Oh,
Another game announcement: Neurovoider.
Yeah, have you guys played this game?
twin stick shooter.
No, I watched the trailer. It looks really cool.
We did a Let's Play on Up at Noon a couple months back. It's
Jeez.
it's like half shmup, half RPG.
shmup.
Okay.
Such a good word.
I love that word. Yeah.
Comes to Switch on September 7th from Flying Oak Games, which is It's just two people in Metz in France who made this game, which is awesome because it does, it looks, the graphics are simple, right? It has this pixelated look. It's all procedurally generated, so you get kind of like this random game experience. But it looks awesome. It has 4-player co-op. You can play together.
That's what I'm excited about.
Robot destruction, exactly. Yeah.
A procedurally generated shmup sounds like my kind of nightmare.
Yeah.
Like that just sounds so difficult to me.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because the only way that you get through a shmup is to memorize those patterns.
Yeah.
Like, if those patterns don't repeat themselves, how do you beat this game?
You just don't.
But there are different varieties, and I think you have to. There are a lot of kind of 8-bit style games, top-down shooters that when you play them are just excruciatingly hard,
Sure.
right? But there are other games we'll get
Next
to
Machina.
one later. We'll talk about a little bit more, where sometimes it's not the pack. You get more kind of casually oriented games that look like that too, and games that are not as frustratingly difficult as a lot of the games that we're seeing.
This one's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, every single day, more and more really rad-looking indie games are getting announced for Switch, and that makes me incredibly happy because it's rapidly becoming the place where I want to play them the most.
Yeah.
Totally.
Especially something like that that's so easy to just pick up and play.
Yeah, totally. Like, it's actually to the point now where, like, when games get announced for other platforms, I'm like,
Well,
I might wait.
we're going to talk about one of those coming up.
Ooh, are we?
Just hold on to your butts.
I'm sad.
The other name of my show.
right.
I'm sad Andrew isn't here, but maybe Miranda has played the
Yes.
Persona games.
Yeah, of course.
Persona Q2 got announced for the 3DS.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And people I know were a little bummed it wasn't for Switch, but
Yep.
I think it's fine. I liked it on my 3DS. It would be cool if it came to Switch.
So I think Megan reviewed the first one,
Right.
Persona Q, Shadow of the Labyrinth. She loved it. She gave it an 8.5 on IGN, which means great.
It's like the Tony the Tiger version.
That's right. That's the German Tony the Tiger. Großartig. It's a 60-hour game, so not a casual RPG.
Yeah, you're gonna
either.
Yeah.
sink a lot of time into it.
Yeah.
It's hard too.
Andrew, a couple years back, convinced me to play the first Persona Q for 3DS, and it's just such a solid dungeon crawler, like so much fun and just like really deep.
It's really
So,
unique too.
yeah.
I just love playing that and like drawing out the map and trying to remember where everything is and
Yeah.
like the chibi forms of everyone.
I was gonna
in
say,
that game
plus
are
you
just
get like all the
charming.
chibi characters from the Persona series, which is fun too.
Yeah.
So you're
I know
in.
Brian's really excited
Oh, yeah,
about
play
that.
this?
absolutely.
I'm very excited.
Yes.
Okay, what do we know about Q2?
It's Persona
It's
5.
Persona 5. It's the
That's
characters
all
from
we
Persona
know.
5. Yeah.
That's it. And it's they use the tagline.
Well,
Was
in
it some
Persona Q-
Take Your Heart?
Yeah.
Persona 5.
And they
was the
have
only
that
teaser
nice
we
top
saw.
hat also. Persona Q does a fun thing. Well, I mean, the Persona series in general, I'm not a fan to the level of as Goldfarb.
I don't know if anyone
that it
actually is that level.
fan exists.
But one nice thing about being a Persona fan is you get these games like Q, like Dancing All Night, where you get these like crossovers where characters from each of the games will meet up and hang out with each other. And like that was one of the big draws to Persona Q, was that there was multiple characters from multiple games in that. And so like I'm sure we'll see characters from 3, 4, Golden, 5, all that stuff in there. So
And if you ask Andrew what his game of the year is so far, it's Persona
Andrew's
5?
game of the decade is
Of the
probably
decade?
Persona 5. Yeah.
And I think Marty too, right?
Yeah, Marty's really excited, or is
Yeah.
has told me several times he's.
I just haven't gotten into that franchise,
about,
but I've
like-
always wanted to.
Oh, you
It's
can
just
jump
daunting.
into any of them. It's just a very big time sink.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
Andrew is infrequently angry with me because I keep playing games in between playing Persona 5. Like I'm about 30 hours in, but I keep picking up other stuff to play. Like I've been playing Splatoon a lot. I've been playing Nier, and I told him I was like, I think I'm gonna start Nier this week. And he's like, no, finish Persona.
It's hard.
It's a 100-hour game,
a hard
dude.
game?
Like, yeah,
I mean, it can be depending on the
it's
level
hard.
you're at.
It's hard to finish it because it's so long.
Yeah,
You know
it's
what
like
I mean?
that's kind of why I liked having Persona 4 Gold on my Vita because I could take it with me anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just nice to play whenever I had time. And then this time it's
That's
sitting down.
sort of the draw for Q.
Yeah,
like
for
they're longer
Q.
games, but yeah.
Yeah, like you get to take it with you, and like I have Q1 just downloaded on my 3DS, so like I can play it whenever I have time. Just going back to it.
You think eventually we'll see this franchise come to Switch?
I would love.
I think so.
Love
I
for
think
that to
real
happen.
nice.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you have to remember that this game probably was in the works for a while already,
Yeah.
and Japan also took that wait and see attitude for the Switch. Whereas with the 3DS, we'll get to Dragon Quest in a second. They know their JRPGs will sell on that platform,
Yeah.
so it's a no-brainer for them to start there. Hopefully, we'll get a port, and you'll see Monster Hunter or other franchises come across as well.
Persona sort of did the same thing that Final Fantasy did, where the original series, Shin Megami Tensei and Megami Tensei, were always sort of associated with Nintendo, and then around the PlayStation era, they migrated over to Sony's platform and have just kind of become synonymous with Sony stuff. You know, like 5 is exclusive to PlayStation 4, and it's just one of those things where I think that people, when modern Persona fans think of Persona, they think of Sony, like they think of PlayStation.
Yeah, for sure.
But that being said, like Q obviously was a big hit on 3DS. A lot of the Megami Tensei games are on.
Same
3DS
with Kingdom Hearts.
So.
It was kind of like that split personality of being very much associated with the PlayStation, but also with Nintendo's platform on the handheld.
Yeah, exactly.
So so we got those 4 announcements. 2 things got a date, kinda. Rime. Remember when Rime was first talked about? I think it was like the first. Was it the first Switch game announced even?
It was up there.
It was one of the earlier ones.
Very beginning. And so, or the first non-Nintendo third-party one. It's going to come out November 14th here in the US, 17th in Europe. We reviewed it already. Marty reviewed it, thought it was okay, but really liked the art style. It's very kind of Shadow of the Colossus looking, has some Wind Waker elements kind of visually. I skipped it when it came out.
Same.
Because I wanted the Switch version.
Exactly.
So.
That's exactly what Brian was just
saying,
talking about. Yeah, like I feel like this game and Yooka-Laylee are 2 games that I've been waiting specifically to play on Switch because I don't know why, but it's just one of those things where like any game that offers the option to play it on Switch, I'm gonna play it on Switch.
Yep.
Like,
I'm actually kind of leaning towards that more too.
Yeah.
I feel like
because of the portability, because of the accessibility, I feel like it's
It's just so nice, like sharing a TV with someone else, and then I can just like pop this out and like, you do your thing, and I'll just go sit down in my corner and play on my Switch.
Yeah, I feel like
so
it really lends itself to like platforming games, to indie games, to like Zelda. I mean, this is like a sort of Zelda-like game in some ways, and I don't know, I'm hot off of like 200 hours in Breath of the Wild, I think, at this point. God, that feels like being at AA or something.
I constantly I constantly run into these moments where I go, man, the Switch is awesome.
Yeah.
And like just the other day, I was playing with an old friend of ours. He wanted to play Splatoon with a couple of friends, and my son, I'm sitting in the living room and my son is watching TV right there, which is unusual because usually it's on a phone and it's YouTube. And so I'm like, well, I can't right now. You know what? No, I can. Right, like I had to free myself from the notion that I really needed the TV screen to go into matchmaking and start playing Splatoon.
Yeah.
So I went and just started to play, and then I kicked him off after it was done and just docked it and kept playing.
I absolutely love that about that. You know, it's the kind of thing that where I can come home and just sort of like curl up on the couch and start playing it and not be like I'm bothering anybody.
Yeah.
Still be sort of like present in the moment next to like your significant other, where you don't have to feel like I'm like hogging the TV and having my alone time at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like they can have the TV. I'm sitting here like I have one earbud in, one earbud listening to my marriage, and then I'm just kind of like I'm playing video games.
It's so nice. You still get to hang out.
Yeah.
It's
But you
great.
used to, like, I still run into these moments where I totally forget that I could just do it. I could just start right now.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to train myself to do that because when the Switch first came out, I was laid up. I had just had surgery, and so I played through, I'd say 85% of Breath of the Wild just on TV. And so it took me a long time to train myself to be like, oh, I can take this on the go. And now, because my internet in my apartment is so terrible and I have to play in one room, I've been playing Splatoon almost exclusively handheld. And I'm just completely, like, continually baffled at the idea of, like, I can't believe I'm having this kind of experience on a handheld device. Like,
And then with Splatoon specifically, I just yelled upstairs to my other son and said, come down, let's play Salmon Run. And he came down, grabbed the Switch, and then sat on the couch next to me playing with another Switch. So it's just really cool.
Yeah, it's
I bet
just
your house looks like a big old Switch commercial.
I know.
It looks like a construction zone right now. The Super NES Classic kind of got a date. I mean, we already know the date, but
Oh gosh, it's a mess.
word is out that pre-orders are imminent.
This just gave me anxiety. Just this news announcement. It didn't do anything for me. It was like finding out like when I have to go to court or something.
Yeah, it's like maybe just keep an eye on social media and all your emails. And like people were asking me if I was going to get one because I never had one growing up. I had Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
And
don't buy the Genesis collection.
Oh, no, I'm not going to get that. I was just like, I don't want to deal with the hassle of trying to get one is the problem.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather just borrow from somebody or something.
No,
but
I actually think we'll be okay with this one. I think there will be ample supply.
I too am cautiously optimistic.
If I can get it the day after pre-orders go up, then we'll talk.
Yeah. Maybe.
Look, you sit in the IGN office. If you're around, we will be yelling pre-orders now after we've secured our own copies.
That's true.
Of course. We'll just go,
Yeah.
Oh, pre-orders are up, guys.
Dude, like it was like Portuguese spam bots or whatever. It took Amazon down last time. Every time I tell the story, it's a different country, so I can be agnostic to the universe. But this is like this is a dangerous thing. And what sucks is like I have placeholder websites for the Best Buy, Walmart, and Amazon listings, and I just bookmark them, and I'll just like periodically, like a crazy person,
F5
click on one,
Yep.
So
and just refresh her once or twice, be like, maybe this is
to,
it.
to have multiple devices that have internet on them and
Yep.
capabilities to purchase it on there. So it's like you have multiple streams. You have your phone, you have your laptop, you have
Yep.
your desktop.
Yeah.
Anything else you can grab.
And you have your credit card information saved on each and every one.
Yep.
And then when you're at Comic-Con and it's Friday at 5 p.m., Zach can text you and be like, they're live right now. And then a week later, Walmart can be like,
Look, guys, I promise you, we will get to a point, just like with the Wii, where you don't have to worry about pre-ordering something. You can just go into a store like this and buy little add-ons and color Joy-Con without having to sweat and freak out.
is that happening now?
It is not happening yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Just
Like,
checking
I-
in.
Yet, somehow.
I have the Splatoon Pro controller,
Yep.
which I'm
Yeah.
holding up if you're watching the
I
video
want
version.
that.
If you're listening to the audio version, this is what it sounds like.
Good.
It's
Quality
it's
content.
pink and green. It's got that watermelon color look. And then in Europe and Japan only do you get the watermelon green, not matching the Pro controller in
yeah,
the shade
It
of
looks
pink.
better.
I'm
You know what?
honestly, I'm convinced that no one at IGN has seen a watermelon because I've been
Yeah.
hearing this all day. The watermelons are not pink.
Yeah, well, that's what everyone attributes
Have you
it to.
ever actually cut a
Yeah, they're red
watermelon?
on the inside.
Yes.
But
Well,
yeah.
they're not like
Brian.
neon pink. They're like
They're not like
maybe a
that's-
pale pink,
that's like,
depending
that's like
on.
Pink Ranger pink.
Well, that just depends
I
on
don't
the
know.
lighting, right, Zach?
I have
Back me
no
up, dude.
opinion.
Are you guys having
Back me
mood
up.
watermelon?
All right, fine. Well, maybe it's watermelon candy. But anyway, like someday you'll be able to go into a store and buy this stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any theory why Nintendo didn't bring out this color scheme and the Splatoon color scheme in the US and only Europe
I
and
don't
Japan?
know.
I mean, they do so many exclusive just items and like
Yeah.
different colors and stuff for Japan and
Yeah.
more so for
Not-
Europe too.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say not
It's
just
just
for
like,
Japan.
why-
It's for different markets in general. you
Yeah,
know?
it makes me so angry.
I know,
All
me
the
too.
faceplates in Japan are so cool.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
awesome. I think what's cool about those is that you can import them.
Yeah.
What sucks about like a Japanese 3DS is if you import it, you have to do that sort of
Right.
like entire system transfer. But the Switch Joy-Cons are cool because like, I don't know, I always forget this, but like Zach and I were doing Link Together the other day with Splatoon, so Ink Together, and we popped the Joy-Cons off of my system and then just took those and slid them on and then took them off and immediately recognized them as
Yep.
wireless controllers. And I
That's
forget,
awesome.
like, I remember getting a Nintendo Wii and syncing the remote.
Syncing the
Oh, it's
Wii
such a
was the
pain.
And
worst.
you're like, you're holding like one hand on the thing and one hand on the other thing, and you're just like 5, 4, 3, and then it didn't work. It was
Yep.
the best.
Yeah, no, the
You know, what a
syncing
great
stuff
time.
is awesome. Anyway, I love this color scheme. I now
wonder-
have every color that's out there except for the Dev Kit black ones, which
Ooh.
you can't buy
So
obviously.
you have every amiibo and you have every Joy-Con.
I have every amiibo ever and every
That's
Joy-Con.
incredible.
Are you really?
Except for the black ones.
Are you trying to collect every
And
Joy-Con?
that's why he's the host of our Nintendo show.
Is that what it takes?
Yeah.
Will I collect every Joy-Con? I think that's manageable.
No, it's not manageable.
They're gonna start getting
Every
weird.
single one,
Yeah.
like from Europe and Japan
Look,
as well.
I'm an old school gamer. I know there are only 16 colors in the world, so
Sure.
I'll
Okay.
be okay.
Right.
You'll be all right.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
how
just
to break
wanted to
this
see
to you,
them-
Grandpa, but there's more than 16
Whatever.
colors. No,
All right, let's wrap up the news. A couple of news items I want to get through. I don't mean to make this sound like a chore. It's actually fun stuff. Like Fire Emblem Warriors, there's some news trickling out of Japan. We saw Famitsu magazine. That's a huge Japanese video game magazine, weekly magazine. Has a feature on Fire Emblem Warriors showing Cordelia, the Pegasus Knight, and female Robin appearing in the game. I think it's safe to say that this game is just going to have a crap ton of
Characters, yeah.
But they also confirmed that the weapon triangle is in. So it's gonna feel different from Hyrule Warriors in that you have to think about the lance versus axe no good kind of matchup, which I think is really cool. And they're replicating
You're gonna have to think about that.
They're replicating the lance versus axe no good. No, choppy choppy, cutty. The character loss feature. So Fire Emblem obviously has this brutal play mode where if your character dies, they're out for good.
So I've
Kinda
heard.
soften that a little bit with later titles, but this game will have some sort of permadeath in it, but more that you can't summon a character in battle if you lost them previously. So
That's cool.
we'll see.
Yeah.
This
I
comes out
appreciate-
September already.
Wow. It's
Can you believe
August.
it? It's August.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We're getting more new games. Yeah.
So soon.
Are you into the Muso games?
Yes, I love them.
you are?
Really?
I love them
Cool.
so
See, I'm
much.
not, but I'm into Fire Emblem, so I'm going to play
Yeah,
this.
I'm really
Right.
excited. Just I like how they outfit each one for the franchise they're covering.
Yeah.
And so just hearing the little bits for Warriors or for Fire Emblem Warriors
Yeah.
is going to be
Why,
great.
why do you like those games?
Because they're just relaxing. They're therapeutic. You just
Murder
cut
is
everyone
relaxing,
down. Just cut
Miranda?
them all down. Yeah. You get the cutest character, cut them all down, you feel
thought
great.
you were
And you
nice.
never really die in those games. I mean, you can,
Yeah.
but it doesn't happen very
It's
often.
hard to die. I think.
Because like if you stood there, I think if you put the controller down for a half an hour and like just like the basic grunts just swarmed you in the hundreds, like it doesn't really hurt you.
Really?
Not with a weapons triangle.
Really?
Yeah, if the axe guy comes and you have a spear, you watch
you're
out.
in trouble.
gonna get messed
Yeah,
up.
that's right.
So I had a similar theory with Hyrule Warriors, where I'm not a Muso fan, but I am a giant Zelda fan,
you
and
like
I
it?
thought, nah,
No.
not for
You didn't
me.
like it
I
at
mean,
all?
it's a
Not for me.
very particular kind of game. Even if it's a version of a game that you like, it's
Yeah.
still going to be a Muso game.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's not going to change.
We'll obviously have more on that game as we get closer to release date and get to play it. I'm cautiously optimistic on this one. I think I might dig this one just because of the characters and the features they had.
Well, you love Fire Emblem more than I think anybody I've ever met. So.
Oh man,
Yeah.
so good. Dragon Quest 9 came out in Japan. Do you guys know what?
No, Dragon Quest 11.
11.
Yeah.
I'm thinking IX.
Yeah.
My Roman
hard.
friends.
Turns out
getting
Dragon
my
Quest
numbers
9 has
confused.
been out in Japan for a while.
Wow.
If you just woke up, it is the year
Yeah.
2017.
Avatar
wait,
is in theaters.
It's pronounced Avatar. And Armageddon. Dragon Quest 11 came out in Japan and it sold 2 million units in just 2 days, which is
Jeez.
pretty amazing.
Call that a home run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
what they
as you were
say.
saying, people associate Dragon Quest with PlayStation, but on 3DS it outsold the PlayStation 4 version.
No kidding.
1.1 million units moved on the 3DS,
Wow.
just under a million on the PS4. And no digital sales counted in that number.
Wow.
I mean, if you think about it, it took like Breath of the Wild a month to reach a number like that, being out in multiple territories, and this
So,
game did it in 2 days.
we also need to consider that it was on the Switch.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it was also on the Wii U, but like
It was on 2 platforms, and it's Zelda, so yeah. But still, I mean, the power of the Dragon Quest franchise,
Especially-
is
especially in
staggering.
Japan.
You see numbers like this, and then when you hear people sort of port beg for games to come to Switch instead of 3DS, like they're like, "Why isn't Hey Pikmin or Metroid?"
Right.
Well, the reasons like this. You
But they
have
have
the
a
60 plus
huge-
million install base
yeah,
out there.
the install base is so important. Like even though of course we want these new games on the new console,
Yeah.
we have it shiny and beautiful and we love it, but they gotta,
They
put
gotta
it out where
balance
people
it.
have it.
I'd love to get to a time where they're released simultaneously, and then the Switch no longer feels like the different console and later, but actually becomes more attractive to 3DS players in Japan.
I'm totally with you on that. I don't think it needs to be an either or thing. That would be a great scenario. We don't
Yeah,
really
that'd be
get
really
to see
nice.
that a lot.
I also-
Smash
do-
Brothers did it, right?
Yeah, I also don't really mind the idea of like playing a 3DS game on Switch fidelity wise. Like
Yep.
it wouldn't bother me to play something like Miitopia on Switch, like knowing that it's a 3DS game, but I can play it on my Switch. It's like just because it doesn't look
What
as
if
good as a standard Switch game.
Shrunk down both the screens real
Whoa!
scraunchy.
Put it in the
Perfect.
Yeah. Or
You
you
just
could do
play
it
it. You
sideways.
just play it like this.
tape mode.
That's right.
There we go.
Moving right along, just a couple of final news items. Overcooked, we talked about the game running a little slow on the Switch, which is true. It's still a really fun game, but the developer has heard the cries and is patching it, which is awesome news.
That's great. I'm actually going to wait for that patch to pick that up.
Yeah.
So.
Mario is not rated E. This is the first Mario game outside the weird spin-offy things. Not rated E. It's going to be rated E10 plus.
That's right. Why-
Which the moment you have something that looks like a nightclub or bar or something, you get your rating increases. So we'll see what's going on in New Dunk City.
You really took the wind out of my sails.
Yeah.
I was going
What?
to have everybody hypothesize why they think it's going to be E10 plus.
I can tell you why.
Why?
Why Luigi shaves his mustache off and it makes a Goomba so angry he pukes.
Whoa.
We're gonna move on. Splatfest is this Friday. It's mayo versus ketchup. Anyone who's ever had French fries knows mayo is the answer.
No, ketchup.
What? Ketchup.
Don't leave
so
me hanging.
German.
Ketchup. What? Mayo?
Yeah, heck yeah.
then, okay.
You guys are mayo over ketchup?
On fries? Get with
We
it, my
sat on the
dude.
right side of the table.
Yeah.
So-
oh,
way.
God. Really?
So mayo is huge in Europe. You should know that.
Yeah.
First of all.
Yeah, it's very
And
different too.
Mayo's
It's a
huge here,
thing.
too.
It's really, and even
Well, mayo
though
sucks here.
even though ketchup
Yeah.
was invented by a German in America, I don't know if he invented it, but Heinz obviously was an immigrant. If you go into like any French fry place in Germany, you say French fries red white, you get ketchup and mayo. Right? It's just it's a combo that just works.
Don't make that.
Why?
Have you ever done fries with mayo on them?
Yeah, like when I was 5.
Wait,
No, let
here,
me
in
tell
the
you.
U.S. though?
Yeah,
Because mayo is different.
mayo is
in
disgusting
Germany.
in America.
It is very different.
Well,
and
you
in
can
Japan.
you buy Kewpie mayo, the Japanese mayo. You can
Yeah.
buy that in the U.S.
Yeah, but
that's
it's like
more
that's
like
hard
European
to get
mayo.
though.
I like both condiments
Internet.
on my cheeseburgers,
true.
perhaps, but I
too.
am going to play for mayo because I feel like it's the underdog this time around.
And
I
mayo
don't,
is
I don't
pearl.
want a cake versus ice cream situation where people were so heavily playing ice cream.
I just feel like there's
Wait,
so much
really?
more.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the first
It was
Splatfest
imbalanced.
the first Splatfest was crazy imbalanced because so many more people chose ice cream.
What?
Yeah.
It is true.
Ketchup is such a more nuanced condiment. There's so
Plus, I gotta represent for Pearl. So
Yeah.
You got to
yeah.
mix that ketchup and the mayo. You get the Primo Patio, the Caribbean
this is
place here.
literally this is an either or debate. You're talking
No, you
about
got
mixing.
to mix it. Add a little orange juice,
gotta
a
take
little
the ice cream
cognac
and make
to
the
it,
cake.
little paprika, a little cayenne. You got yourself an awesome
Check it out.
Caribbean sauce.
That's
man.
now
true.
this show,
Do it.
MVC Mayo voice chat.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
That's not a good idea.
No.
But the logo's red, so
Yeah.
maybe don't do that.
But it's actually it could have mustard in it. So.
Yeah.
So, ladies and
Oh, that's all of
gentlemen,
them.
we're
Which is
going to
better than
talk
mayo.
about the games that we're actually playing right now. And I teased 2 of them, Mario Rabbids and Metroid, obviously. But we're also playing a little game called Slime Sand.
Yeah.
Slime
Slime
San. Slime Sun.
Yeah, we're having
Slime
trouble
sand.
pronouncing this one.
Yeah.
I
I
think
really
it's
like this game.
Slime Son.
Slime
Slime
Son.
Son.
Let's go with
It's
that.
hyphenated.
Slime Son.
Definitely
Slime
Slime Son.
Yeah.
Anyway,
playing
that's
it.
our.
That's it for this week.
Yeah, so I really dig this game. It launched on Switch this week. It's got 100 stages, and each stage is sort of composed of 4 screens.
Yeah.
So in the same way you would remember, like, Donkey Kong has 4 screens, right?
Yeah.
Like the Pie Factory, the girders, and all that. And then the one where you kill Donkey Kong and he comes back to life. So this game's got 100 levels, and then each screen is an apple. And it's an action platforming game that has a dash button and sort of like a morph button. You guys were supposed to play before.
I'm
we
giving
started the
Slime
show.
Sun to Zach. No, I
wasn't told to play
I played it.
I was playing Splatoon.
Sweet. So basically, you traverse these levels, trying to get to the end of them, and you jump through. One of the main mechanics is dashing, and the other is this sort of like slowdown that lets you kind of like
Slow down platforms and
glitch through walls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. It's very kind of Meat Boy-esque.
So that I was going to bring that up because it feels like Super Meat Boy the way you jump up the walls. You can kind of like multi-jump a
Yeah.
wall. But it is not brutally difficult like Super Meat Boy. So I actually had a really good time with that game. Not to say Super Meat Boy isn't good, but it's like I do get frustrated at
Super
the
Meat Boy is
super
great.
skill games.
Yeah.
Right.
But it makes me angry.
No, that makes
I don't
sense.
wanna
I
be
mean, I don't
angry.
like playing those either. Like, I acknowledge why they're great,
Yeah.
but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want to play that because I don't want to be that frustrated.
Yeah.
See, I love things like that. Like I'm a Dark Souls guy. Like I love that level of challenge and figuring out a way to almost break a game to make it work or get past it. Like I really dig that. And so
Yeah,
it seems
I
like
think
it's
I
kind
think
of
you'd
right
like
up
this
my alley.
game too. It's sort of like a sort of more microcosmic version of the challenge in Meat Boy because it is screen based, and the apples that you collect are like they're hidden things, right? And they're kind of out of the way, off the beaten path a little bit. But if you get them, you can unlock more like cosmetic changes, sort of like stuff for your character. There's also like tokens that are hidden around the world that are really hard to find, and if you find them, they open up an arcade that has like multiplayer games in it. And it's just this like weird, totally like retro bit, almost like arcade kill screen looking graphics.
Art style reminds me of the old home computer days.
Yeah.
Like more like Commodore 64, maybe
Yeah.
Amiga, like the color schemes
Yep.
and stuff. Like if you played games like Conan back in the days,
And
like
you
that's
play-
what it looks like
you
to
play
me.
as this
Beyond
weird,
me.
you play as this weird slime who has like a friend who's a bird.
Yeah.
The music is really awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really awesome.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of stuff I love to see on Switch. It's developed, I believe, by a very small team of people.
Fabraz. Yeah.
And like it's just
Gesundheit.
Gesundheit. It's just like we need more games like this, right? Like right now there isn't a dedicated 2D Mario platforming game on Switch, right? Rayman Legends isn't out yet. We've got Shovel Knight, which is like sort of more action platformy, but this is like just straight up hardcore, like awesome platforming on
Yep.
Switch, and
No.
we need more games like it. So
Having played it for 25 seconds just now, I
Yeah.
can say that I like it.
yeah,
You dig it?
There we
yeah.
go.
It was totally not on my radar. You brought it up and had seen it before. So I'm glad that you recommended this.
Yeah, totally the kind of game I'm going to keep going back to.
Lots of stuff to do. Retro City Rampage also came out on Switch.
Yep. Has everyone played that? Just me?
I
me.
played it on 3DS.
I've
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, when when it first came out, I played a little bit of it. Very much like classic GTA before GTA went 3D with GTA 3.
Yeah,
kind of top-down perspective, sprite-based cars and crime-based stuff. Do you like it? How much have you played of it?
I like it. I don't love it.
Okay.
I think I prefer. So I'll say to get the good stuff out of the way.
Yep.
Like the pixel art in this game is fantastic. It totally nails that like chunky old school NES pixel art look.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, you weren't kidding. This game is hard.
Yeah, it's hard, right? And once again, like game developed by a very small team of people. I think just one person did the music and did everything for this game.
Wow.
It's $15. It's out on Switch now. It's been on literally every platform.
Yeah,
but
it's everywhere.
I think where the game starts to lose me is it's very sort of overly referential in its themes. Like it so leans into like 80s and 90s pop culture so hard that like if you weren't around for those things or like you don't want to be beaten up by those things constantly, like it's always there.
Wait,
It's like that guy's nudging you like, hey, remember this?
It's
Remember
constant
this?
like, hey, do you remember the DeLorean? Hey, do you remember like Kit from Knight Rider? Hey, do you remember X-Men? Hey, remember like Ninja Turtles? And you're
Are
like,
you a Ready Player One hater too?
I'm not a hater. I just don't
right.
read books that come for free in Loot Crate.
Well, it wasn't free when I read it, and I liked it.
Yeah, I have no interest in that book. I'm super excited they're making a movie for the people who want to see it.
Yeah, because I think it's. I mean, what you're seeing now is you grew up in those in that decade, right? And so the references almost feel like a little heavy-handed for you in some of the things. I mean, my parents probably feel that way when somebody does something set in the 60s where everybody talks like this, you know, like and so I can see that, but I also I dig that stuff
Well, like,
when things are loaded with references.
I think there's ways of doing it, right?
More nuanced, like just like, hey, look at this cool thing, but I'm not going to shove it in your face. Like, I appreciate that more.
Shovel Knight did it really well.
Yeah.
Shovel Knight's a game that did it really
Fair
well.
enough.
Whereas if you play like Guacamelee and there's all these like memes in the background and stuff like that, it's kind of a little overt. I think something like
Great game though.
Yeah, something like Stranger Things is something that's a great example of like vastly, different than things that happen nowadays.
So,
based in like 80s horror.
Yeah, it's more like it lives in that world as opposed to saying, remember these things.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about
a good way of putting it.
Stranger Things and Shovel Knight, both they're less so referential and more so homage, right? Like it's more about paying respect to the franchises that came before than it is like straight up aping them or being like, oh, also here's Mega Man,
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. So, but I mean, I've heard some people who like this game. Like, if you're into that kind of GTA style, top-down shooting, stealing cars gameplay.
Yeah,
give it a
I mean,
look.
and the cool thing is like this guy's making a game for Switch that's sort of the sequel to this game. It's called
Mr. Shifty.
No, it's Hawaii something.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking
And I'm
about.
totally blanking. I'm so sorry, but it leans way more into 16-bit art style.
Yeah.
And once again, he's completely nailing that art style. Like it's gorgeous looking. But yeah, check out some gameplay videos. Maybe it's what you want. We don't really have a GTA game on Switch right now, so this is about as close as it gets.
Hopefully, we'll get
What
some.
the hell is the name of that game? Hawaii.
All right, you guys are great. I'm glad I got
Hawaii's cool.
invite.
It's just called Hawaii.
Professional
Nice.
editors to podcasts. Okay,
Sorry.
we'll continue here. Mario plus Rabbids
Oh, no.
Kingdom Battle is coming out August 29th this month, in case you woke up from the
What's wrong,
80s.
Miranda?
Yeah. From Ubisoft. Most of us have played it, have seen it. It seems like opinions are divisive. Is that what I'm picking
I just
up here?
hate Rabbids. I
Okay,
hate
hold on.
them so much.
Okay, let's hear about that.
Gosh, they're
what
so
happened
bad.
with the Rabbids?
So Rabbids are minions before minions were a thing, but they're way worse. Like their eyes are just disgustingly buggy, and they try to be cute, but it's like no, you're just garbage. Like please stop. Like you're trying to be cute garbage, and I just don't want any of it. But like the game itself looks awesome. Like I like what it's trying to do there. I just hate
you
Rabbids.
just hate the characters, and is it because they're obnoxiously screaming "Dog"?
Yeah,
and
pretty
all
much.
that?
Like
Yeah?
just like they're obnoxious, and people are like, "Oh, they're cute." I'm like, "Please don't say that."
Well, they're
Like,
not.
please,
They're not
I'm
meant to be cute. They're meant to be obnoxious.
I
Right?
will
Like-
meet you. I will meet you to a point on this, but I can't agree with the worse than Minions thing. Minions are just
Minions
they're
take the
just
cake.
toilet trash.
So in Despicable Me, they had their charm when they were just like the side thing. Like, oh, they were kind of cute. And now they've kind of blown up to past that point.
Yeah.
But I think that's like what happened with Rabbids.
Right.
But they're just worse.
I just have a
I
problem
think-
with like
I think they're
overalls and whatever, like their weird goggle that they wear.
I just don't like those eyes.
problem
And I don't
with
like that they're
overalls?
supposed to be
know.
rabbits.
There's overalls
And
besides
rabbits are
Mario.
adorable. And then you do this to them.
That's true. That is true.
So,
but that's it. I think there's some adorable stuff happening with the character crossovers here in an equally terrifying way. Like that weird Donkey Kong rabbit
monster
Rabbit Kong.
gorilla
I like that,
thing.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there are things I like about it. I just wish it wasn't rabbit.
Yeah.
But it's a revenge fantasy for you. I mean, you literally get
I
to
just want
shoot
them all to die. Like,
Yeah.
what if I just send
Yeah.
them all to die and play with Mario?
You know, just if you haven't followed this game, again, like I wouldn't write it off as being a cheap crossover.
No. Yeah, I feel bad for like being very angry about it. It's
Yeah.
like I think the game itself looks incredible. Like I think it's a good turn-based strategy game that merges something cool with something that's not very cool. And I guess I get angry because people push on me. It's like, no, they're so cute. I'm like, you can think what you want about that, but
I think we gotta
anyway.
bring some rabbits into the office.
No.
I think so, yeah.
Someone tried to give me a rabbit statue. I just like threw it.
Really?
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's like,
All right,
I
Ubisoft, to
think-
hear this.
please don't.
I think this game more so than any in recent memory has had this like kind of complete 180 in the conversation, right? I think
It
that
went
it's,
from do not want to wait a second.
I remember
what
when
is
it
this
leaked,
game,
it was
right?
like that sounds so stupid. I can't believe that would even happen in this day and age. And it seemed like such a cash grab. And then all of a sudden at E3, they brought Miyamoto out on stage and he was like, what an honor to work with this team and what a cool game we've made. And then they showed the demo and it looked like XCOM with Mario in it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like one of my most anticipated games of the year.
no, same.
And I can't play it. I haven't been able to play it. There's been like 5 preview events and I've been busy for all of them and I have yet to play it. And everybody that's played
They
it
literally
says it's
brought
so
it
fun.
to the office the other day.
I know.
It was here in
the
Thanks,
office.
Gamescom.
No, I honestly think I think the leak was the best thing to happen to this game.
Yeah,
Weirdly
you're probably
enough.
right.
It got the message out.
It
so
did, yeah. And they were all
Well, not only that, but it, sorry for interrupting
Yeah.
you, but it allowed for this story to happen. Like it allowed that turn, which is the best thing that could have
Yeah, I
possibly
mean,
happened.
like you accepted the weirdness of it, and you're like, okay,
If
I'm very
nobody-
skeptical.
yeah,
I doubt
exactly.
it, and then they show this awesome game.
If nobody had ever heard about it from before E3, if it hadn't leaked, would Miyamoto have come out on stage to sort of like put his like
Possibly,
vote of
but
confidence?
I think that like we would not have been desensitized to the concept of it yet. Whereas now, I think we would just be getting used to it now.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
at E3, we were like, "Did you hear about this thing? Did you see the screens?" I mean, the entire like pitch, the design doc for this
Yeah,
thing leaked.
yeah.
Like the internal PowerPoint for how to sell this game to retailers.
Right.
leaked.
Yeah.
Like this wasn't just like a guy snapped a picture of somebody else's
Excuse
iPad
me.
on a plate with Assassin's Creed. This was like everything was out there. All the characters,
Poor
everything.
Ubisoft.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, that's what happens when you have like 15 teams working on one product globally.
Yeah, and I don't want to play the Ubisoft defense squad here, but I'm sometimes struck by the negativity online against that company. When I think about Ubisoft, I think about franchises like Rayman, the fun I've had with Rainbow Six. I love Splinter Cell.
Even some of their newer stuff like Watch Dogs 2 was one of my favorite games last year. Far Cry,
and
yeah.
so I greatly enjoy the Assassin's Creed games. I think there are ups and downs. Obviously, 4 was amazing. I thought the vitriol against Unity was kind of confounding. It's like I played the whole game, never saw a character with the face falling off.
Yeah.
Right? But it turned into this kind of like negative story
Sure.
about the studio, where then when you get to an announcement like this, everybody's like, "Wow, this can't possibly be good." I'm like, "Well, hold on
totally.
a second." 'Cause,
I think that
you know,
we sort of like have a tendency to demonize these like admittedly massive global corporations hell bent on running a business.
Yeah.
And
But
then-
things like we saw Watch Dogs running in an early stage at E3, and then the version we got was different than the one we played, and everyone was like, "Oh, bullshots," and Ubisoft lies, and don't believe anything they say. And then there's also like their pricing structure and model of games like Assassin's Creed, where pre-order bonuses get splintered into 17 different directions at 50 different retailers. So they're not perfect, they're not infallible,
No, for sure.
but they are making.
there's some bad Rabbids games.
Yeah.
too. Let's face it.
But they
right?
ultimately are a company that are trying to make some really cool games, and if you look at Metacritic, they do.
and they make a very specific kind of game. So if you don't like that game too, then
Yeah.
you're not gonna.
So let's get
engage
back
with
to
that.
this very specific game, because I feel like turn-based strategy is almost a dirty word for some players. People
Yeah.
really like a more action-oriented game, faster-moving stuff. The fact that there's somebody dares to take the Mario world and the Rayman world and
called the
put
Mushroom Kingdom.
turn-based on it it's called the Mushroom Kingdom. Okay.
And the story behind all
Little
of
known
this
fact.
is really interesting because it's effectively the team behind it, and the creative director Davide Soliani pitched this game to Ubisoft or to Nintendo. They went to Kyoto and said, Miyamoto, like, we want to make this game. And Miyamoto was basically like, I just don't want you jumping.
Yeah.
Mario can't jump. That's my thing. what can you do? And then they went back and started thinking about it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
I
he said that
remember
at E3. He said
Yeah.
on stage he challenged them to make a Mario game where the core mechanic wasn't.
Because
jumping.
it has some little Paper Mario elements too, right? In
Yeah.
the battles where you have timed button presses when
Yeah.
you're executing an attack. So it kind of learns a little bit from a bunch of games, including XCOM. I think we mentioned this
that's
before.
the biggest one.
heaviest
Yeah.
If you've never
for
played
sure.
XCOM, it's got that kind of Final Fantasy, Fire Emblem factor where you really care about your troops. It's different from Advance Wars where they're kind of ciphers. You give them names, like you name them your friends, and then when they die, they're gone.
Can they do that?
Huh?
In Rabbids?
No, it's different. So you've
That's what I
got
thought.
the XCOM franchise, and that attracted me to those games, and it's turn-based. I'm like, wow, I really care about these characters. Then you've got, do you guys remember Full Spectrum Warrior?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was this, I think it was THQ who
Yep.
published it. It was a turn-based game, but it looked like war footage with like off-the-camera footage of your soldiers taking cover. And I feel like this is almost a mixture of those two, where yes, it's turn-based, but it has this very different look, which in this case, it looks like a Mario game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Paper Mario
Looks
button
so
controls,
good.
all that.
It's a stunning looking game.
Yeah,
by
it
the way,
looks
like
really
this
good.
is probably the best looking Mario game we've seen. Like in this texture wise, a lot of it even looks better than some of the stuff
So
we're seeing in
clean
Odyssey.
and
Wow.
bright.
Right?
It's just really
Yeah.
nice to look at,
There's-
aside from the Rabbids.
There's something really cool about, aside from the rabbits. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's something really cool about the environments that just look like tangible. Like it looks like
Yeah.
someone built a little like sort of paper mache sculpture and put like moss on it. The characters are really like, they're kind of hit or miss in terms of like when you get outside of the Mushroom Kingdom Mario characters, because you're really going up against a bunch of different like day-to-day kind of rabid grunts with guns. But what defines them and makes them interesting is that there are something like 276 weapons in this game.
Yeah.
That you can
wow.
cycle through, that you can unlock. There's references to weapons in other Ubisoft characters, other Nintendo games, other Mario things. So I think where it gets interesting is that we'll start to see some weird bosses. We'll start to see some really creative stuff. I kind of want to see how much of the gameplay will be exploration and how much of it will be stuck in that sort of like moment-to-moment combat stuff. Because ultimately, I do play Mario games for the exploration and collecting part.
Yep.
But I think all that stuff is there too. So
Our very own Joe Screbbles did the preview on this latest hands-on and said that they dropped him into sort of a late stage battle arena, and he said it was very difficult.
Yeah.
And he was pleasantly surprised by the idea that like this game that has all these cuddly creatures and Mario could be just hand his butt to him.
Yeah.
He said he died right away and had to go back in and start the level over. And
And I love the multi-tier setup that you have to traverse to higher areas and
Right.
all that. It's basically like they looked at a Tactics Ogre game and said, all right, how do you speed that up? Like, how do you make something like Tactics Ogre more accessible by
Right.
just kind of speeding it up and letting you draw these lines on the map like, Advance Wars of Fire Emblem style? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really interested to see more. I hope it holds up and that it's not a one-trick pony where
Yeah.
after a while you go, okay, I get it now. I'm fighting a different type of rabbit, which
Yeah.
I know you'd be really into.
just
'em out,
kill them
take 'em
all.
all out.
Kill 'em up, kill 'em all.
You got enough guns for
I'm
it.
really excited for this game because I am not a huge Fire Emblem fan, but I like strategy games. I know, I'm sorry, buddy. But I like strategy games. I really miss Advance Wars.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
really excited to
I miss it.
play
too.
another Nintendo strategy game.
Yeah.
And hopefully this one kind of scratches
Like
that itch.
even though
So-
I don't like rabbits, I would like to play this game.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to ignore it just because I don't like a character design. Like,
Sure.
That's silly.
Well, I think it's doing what Nintendo games do best at their core, right? It's taking this very kind of in-depth and sometimes obtuse video game genre and putting it towards something that I can understand. It.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
Super Mario RPG did it. Advance Wars did it. Fire Emblem to a degree, although that gets a lot
Mario
deeper.
Kart did
Mario
it.
Kart
Yeah.
does it, right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, let's. If you want to know more about this game, obviously we've got more coverage on IGN. There's a cool video coming on Mario plus Rabbids that we will announce soon as well. So keep your eyes open for that.
Is that the one I did?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's the
yeah.
one- the
yeah well,
one-
I can't wait to show you guys that. I'm
Mother
very,
Brian here.
very, very
Secrets.
proud of it.
Yeah.
It's a secret.
Let's talk about another big game that's not coming this month. Unfortunately, we have to wait a little bit longer.
But it's
till
coming next
September
month.
15th.
Yeah, that's so close. And it is Metroid.
Oh, it's like just in time for
Samus
me to take it to
Returns.
TGS too.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll play on the way to Japan.
We are getting a new Metroid game for the Nintendo 3DS. And if you're still bummed out that it's not on Switch, obviously you're getting a Switch Prime in the future.
Switch Prime.
I was very, very pleasantly surprised with the level of art style.
This game rules.
And the presentation, from what I played. It looks so nice.
I'll keep saying it's the one game I want to play in 3D.
Yeah.
Like I turn on 3D, it's like, wow, this is actually really cool and adds so much to it.
Before we talk more about our impressions from actually playing it, I want to give a shout out to Marshall Garduk. He's one of our most prolific NVC fans. Marshall has autism, and he's active as an ambassador of the Autism Speaks organization. He sends us a lot of mail, a lot of emails and tweets, but he also sent us a nice package with personal letters, old classic snail letters for everybody on the NVC team, and asked us about Metroid. That's one of the franchises that he cares about more than anything.
Same.
And so he asked this specific question to all of you. Can you please tell me, from the bottom of your hearts, why you care about Metroid? What does Metroid mean to you? I have trouble understanding why people care about the same things as I do, because I have autism and I'm not able to fully understand other people's feelings and emotions compared to mine. So what attracts you guys to this franchise?
To me, more so than any other franchise, Metroid is about an atmosphere and about a feeling. I think especially Metroid Prime, the first one, I don't think that I've played a game. Maybe Shadow of Colossus had like a similar feeling of this sort of like loneliness and desolation. But I feel like Prime, especially because you're just out there. Samus doesn't have a horse. She's just out there on her own fighting all those bad Metroid boys. And that sense of isolation, that sense of loneliness, just like the atmospheric music, it really, I think more so than any franchise, it sets a mood better than any other series that I know.
Yeah. For me, and Marshall brought this up too, and said, why do you guys care about it so much when it's not as recognized as Mario, Zelda, any of the other great Nintendo franchises like Pokemon that outsell Metroid? For me, my love affair with that game actually started back in 1994 when Super Metroid came out. I lived in Japan. I had rediscovered my love for gaming, got myself the Super Famicom, played games like Legend of Zelda, and I really got this sense that there was something really, really special about these Nintendo games that build a story through the items and the abilities you collect. If you play Link to the Past, you start with nothing in the rain, has this amazing atmosphere of you against the world, right? You're out there alone. Super Metroid started the same way. Like a spaceship came down, and so the moment I started playing that, I'm like, oh my god, is this like Link to the Past but 2D? That same kind of atmosphere and kind of loneliness where you become more and more powerful, with the difference that in Super Metroid you're already a badass. Like in the Metroid franchise, you don't start as the little kid. You play as a badass bounty hunter, and then you have a very specific goal. I'm also a huge fan of the Aliens franchise. So Alien, the original Ridley Scott movie, the James Cameron sequel, I really love those films, but I will always cherish that kind of isolation and loneliness you got from Alien 1.
Yeah.
And I felt like Super Metroid more than anything embodied that, where it's like, you have a goal, get off this planet, or in this game specifically, hunt down all the Metroids, and like you're like singularly focused on this thing, and then you get derailed and you try to work like with this environment, and like you walk into a room and you're like getting cooked and you're like, oh, get out quick, That's what attracted me to this franchise.
I got an NES when I was a little kid in the 80s, and I picked out a couple games, and one of them was this game called Metroid, and because it had like a robot astronaut on the cover who was fighting like a yellow porcupine or whatever it was back then. And I didn't know anything about it. I remember starting out and hearing that music and seeing the character model head on from the beginning, or the sprite, which you never saw back then. And then immediately realizing you could go left. And then going, wait, what? Like Mario makes me go right. Every platforming game makes me go right, and I keep running. And I went left and I got a morph ball. And I was like, oh, I can shrink and turn into a ball and start rolling around. And then exploring that game and realizing like this is my first time experiencing like playable dystopian sci-fi. And knowing that this was this character that could go into these elevators, down into these like almost tomb-like areas, and just get lost. I would just wake up on a Saturday morning, start playing that game and being like, I don't even know where I am in this world. I'm like 70 elevators deep. There's enemies I've never seen before. They're playing this like terrifying 8-bit sci-fi music. And then one day beating the game, and then Spaceman takes off his helmet and it's a woman. And you're like, that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was a good twist, huh?
Yeah. So I've always loved those games.
What about you, Miranda? You're a little younger than us old men here.
Yeah.
Hey.
I'm a bit younger.
Huh? Some of
Not
us.
as old as you guys.
He's
2
22.
years younger than
Zach is 22.
Wow, younger than me.
Yeah.
So I am interested in Metroid because of how interested everyone else is and how much they love Metroid. I think Samus is just a cool character. My first interaction with Metroid was Metroid Prime Hunters demo on the Nintendo DS, the original one. And so that was the only exposure I had at that point, because like I didn't have older friends that had like grew up with Nintendo, and I was pretty much like the oldest of the people that I knew with gaming. So this was my first exposure. I was like, wow,
entry point.
This is so cool. Yeah. And I played that demo a whole bunch. Like I don't remember how many times I played it. And that was it. And I never played any Metroid thing again.
Holy moly, are you serious?
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, now
I mean, it's just like there's so many games. Like I was very fortunate to grow up with like multiple systems.
Right.
And my parents were very much like, here's the new Pokemon. So I like get into the new Pokemon, and I just never really, I guess, had a reason to be interested in Metroid until I grew up and heard that everyone loves Metroid. So that's why I'm very excited for Samus Returns.
I feel like there's still good in you, and we can get you to play even Metroid Prime 1 and discover why it's awesome. So your experience, I think, is really interesting because you're not alone. There are a lot of people who have never played a Metroid game, and if you look at the sales numbers for that franchise, it just doesn't live up to Nintendo's core franchise, right? Like your Mario, Zelda, Pokemon just perform much, much better. So it's really interesting that was your entry point.
Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting kind of getting into it now, because I'm very excited about that, because I do love Nintendo franchises. Like Zelda's profoundly important to me, and like me growing up and stuff. But yeah, I somehow missed Metroid.
So Marshall, that's why we care about the Metroid franchise. I hope you agree with us that there's something special there. So let's talk about why we care about this specific game, Samus Returns, coming to the Nintendo 3DS. For me, I started playing it and it all came back because the way it gets introduced, it just feels like classic, Metroid, NES, Super NES Metroid. It's kind of hard to see the Game Boy skeleton underneath it all because they changed so much
of it. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like you're playing a remake. It doesn't feel like you're playing a remake of like a 4-bit game that had no map and no colors.
Yeah, it feels like a brand new game. Yeah.
And that was my biggest fear going into this when it first got announced, when we first saw screenshots for it. I was like, if it doesn't feel right, like Mario games all have that. There's a specific way Super Mario jumps, and if he doesn't, it feels weird, right?
Yep. Right. Imposter.
Yeah. If there's just something off about that rhythm, that movement, that sort of the momentum. And I feel the same thing about Metroid, and jumping into this game and immediately running around and shooting things and traversing the environment, turning into a ball, and like finding little hidden nooks and crannies and like secrets and stuff. I was like, this is Metroid. This is great.
I think Mercury's team just nailed it. Like more so than with Castlevania, like they really, when you hold down the button and you're able to kind of free aim around, it just feels right.
Yeah.
It feels so good. I think the morph ball is a little sticky, but it's always been like that in the franchise. But overall, the
sticky
motion
ball is supposed to be the one that's sticky.
Overall, I feel like the feel of it is right, and then I think the art is actually remarkably good. Like I got real Retro Studios vibes with the background.
I was so impressed.
Yeah, it's got a cool like almost Egyptian vibe to it. Yeah, like the machinations and stuff in the background. Like I agree with you. It looks more so like the retro stuff than it looks like Super Metroid or even like Zero Mission.
I mean, the Chozo who look very Egyptian.
Yes,
right? And so they play with that, and they build these bigger contraptions with like lights that light up that look like classic Egyptian art. And then the layering, you were talking about the 3D, right?
Yeah, they're like, play with the 3D on. And usually I don't, because I get a little sick whenever I'm, jostled around, especially with the newer 3DSs. And they're like, no, do it. And I was like, okay. And then I just turn it on, and I was just like, oh, hey, this is one I will definitely play in 3D. Like at least halfway 3D. Like it is just so good. It is. The environment just amazing.
You played it at Comic-Con, right? You got to play it at Comic-Con?
Yeah.
You were there for the Disney with the IGN show that's airing on Disney XD if you haven't watched it. We're taking 1 week break and then it's back, right?
I think we're airing our first 10 episodes for the next 2 weeks. So we're just doing reruns.
So you can you can watch the reruns,
Yeah, so we're coming up very
soon. But there was a segment of you going to the Nintendo booth actually checking out Metroid, some of the games.
Yes, a lot of other things. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun with that segment. I mostly just did Nintendo stuff at Comic-Con. I was so happy.
That's awesome.
Nice to meet Pikachu.
Yeah,
saw
the
that.
Happiest day.
We had so much material. We split it over 2 episodes. Look those up. You can also find the IGN show on IGN.
Yeah,
surprisingly, go to IGN, just mouse over shows, and it's right there. So you can catch the Metroid stuff in there.
Those are episodes 9 and 10. So we talked about Metroid, talked about Skyrim on Switch, we talked about Super Mario Odyssey, of course. So we had a ton of stuff in there. But yes, I did get to play Samus Returns, and I was very happy they got me to do it. Because like I said, this is my first experience really with an actual Metroid game. That's not a demo.
So you're in.
Oh yeah,
You're gonna
I'm
play
very
this
in. I'm very excited to play this.
Nice.
The 3D works really well on it because it looks like you're kind of looking into like a diorama. I've always really loved 3D on 2D planes.
Yeah.
And Nintendo handles them really well. Like this specifically, it's just got this awesome. It just feels like there's a tiny Metroid world in your hand.
And it has there's one area that has kind of like a fog layer in the background, and so you have a background, then you have fog in between, then you have another background and another background behind it. It just gives this 2D game so much depth, and it runs well. When you switch on the 3D, there's a tiny little performance hit. With the 3D off, it runs a little faster, but it's not anything to impair the feel or the controls.
I always find it strange to like demo a Metroid game, which admittedly I haven't had the chance to do in a while because there haven't been one in the years I've been working in this industry. But it's always weird because those games start off with, spoilers, you have a bunch of stuff, they take it all away, you have nothing, and you slowly build back up. But when you play a demo, you're like, I have the morph ball, but I don't have bombs. I have missiles, but I don't have the ice beam. Like eventually you'll get everything, but they showed us just this Spoilers.
Oh man, Ice beam.
Ice beam. They showed us a part where it was just you're kind of, I would guess, early on in the game. Well, you don't really have a ton of stuff yet.
So I handed my demo unit off to you.
Yeah.
And I started at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And so like
I did too. I started from the very beginning.
I started from the very beginning. The ship comes down. Da, 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 psh, right? Chills. And then you find, I think within the first 5 minutes of playing, I found the morph ball, I found a missile upgrade, I found an energy upgrade just by poking around. And that's the thing about Metroid that will keep you coming back, is because there's always something to discover there.
They're so well hidden too.
Yeah. And one of the first actually I don't know if I can talk about that. I can't remember if that's before or after.
Well, in the very beginning, there's a power-up that lets you scan.
That's the one.
Yeah, so that one is okay.
Okay,
we've seen
we
that
played
one.
that. Cool.
Embargoes. You get this power-up that basically lets you use sonar. And so you can scan an area, you can scan the map that you're looking at, and it'll show you if there's like items or enemies or Metroids.
Bricks.
Yeah, exactly. Really, really cool.
It's like,
and I mean, Metroid purists might choose to play without that, because part of the fun is figuring out like, oh, I didn't realize I could destroy that block, or I didn't know that this wall had something behind it. But the idea that this game specifically is about tracking down X amount of things.
Yeah. It's the bounty hunter game in the franchise.
Like you can finish Metroid games with 60% completion, 70% completion rate if you don't find every energy tank, if you don't find every missile upgrade. But this game specifically, to beat it, you have to find all the Metroid, right?
Yeah.
So I have a confession. I kind of feel bad about killing Metroid.
Yeah,
you should.
So,
they're cute.
Yeah,
but they're different variations of Metroids, and they're not themselves.
So when they evolve into that weird buggy thing, I was like, no, you gotta go.
So that one you're cool.
You're getting out of here.
Okay.
But just the little guy with the teeth, you were like not into.
Like what if I just pet you? Will you be happier? Can we find you something else to eat?
So you're a huge anime fan. Maybe you should play the one with the baby.
Yeah.
Baby.
Other M? That's what you want her first Metroid game before.
Well, but she's used to nonsense storylines. Sorry.
Oh, shots fired.
No, I mean other M is actually an interesting game. It's not quite as good as the other titles in the Metroid franchise.
See, I'm of the camp that thinks that the gameplay in Other M is totally fine and definitely worthwhile, but the story is just bunk.
But it is very anime.
Yeah, for sure. The story is very anime.
Yeah, and that talks about like it's more about the Metroid isn't the enemy per se.
She does the thumbs down.
That's what she does in in one of the opening cutscenes. She's just she's very dramatic
because she realizes she's in Metroid Other M.
Yeah.
So it's
fine. It's
totally fine. I know that game. There's so many haters. That game is fine.
I'm not a hater.
Okay.
Of that game.
We all like different things.
You know what I really?
It's okay.
You know what I really like about Samus Returns though? It's like the small additions, like the wall grab when you jump up to a wall.
Yeah.
It really changes the feel of the game. But the parry, the counter move,
the melee
really
counter,
good.
Yeah.
So that one's a little weird because it does take a little bit to get used to because there's a little delay in it.
It's almost
not quick. It's just like okay.
It's almost like a rhythm game.
Yeah.
Because an enemy will telegraph when it's going to do an attack that you can counter. And it's like a 3 count. Like it'll show you that it's going to do something, and then it'll move, and then on the 3rd count you have to counter.
Yep.
And it took me a while to get it down.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, and I actually played it. Rich George, who was here giving us the demos, friend of the pod, he was making fun of me because throughout the duration of my playthrough, he could just hear my alarm going off because I was so close to dying like the whole time that I was playing.
Yep.
Because I was only trying to counter for the first half of that demo until I got it down.
Yeah.
But the counter completely changes the way you play that game. It's really cool.
Totally
it's the key
agree.
to beating some of the mini bosses. It's really smart.
got, you get a little bit of an auto aim right after you execute it on an enemy. So if an enemy moves up slightly, it follows the shots follow. So there's some good strategy in that title. Really excited about it. It comes out September 15th. As we get to play more and get to explore more, we'll definitely be talking more about that. I mean, we've talked for years about how there isn't a Metroid game, so we better talk about it.
I just want that squishy Metroid amiibo.
I do like the amiibos too.
Yeah, we know. You have them all.
Let's
Shocker that Pear likes an amiibo.
I was like, wait, wow, really?
Let's close out this here episode of Nintendo Voice Chat by answering some of our fan questions.
Sure.
Yeah. Check in with the listeners.
Should we do all three? Do you want to do one?
Let's go rapid fire.
Why don't we start?
Yeah, we'll go rapid fire. James Clark says, "Hi, Pear, Brian, Young, George Lucas, and Miranda. I have a question that has been on my mind for a while now. With the recent Samus Returns amiibo controversy, I felt now would be a good time to ask. The question is, what, in your opinions, do you think the best strategy for amiibo functionality in games should be going forward?"
I have the answer. They should all work in style savvy, fashion forward, so I can have more outfits for my characters in my shop.
Your answer is actually it's much more specific than mine, but exactly what I'm going for too. They should be cosmetic.
Yeah, in-game
entirely
rewards and cosmetic.
It's absolutely fair, I think. It's just like a fun thing. It's like if you have it, cool for you. If you don't have it, you're going to be fine.
I think that Zelda did it best. Like, I think that Breath of the Wild did it best in terms of amiibo functionality, because occasionally it would drop a costume that you could use, or it just dropped like a bunch of meat and fruit and was like, well, here's a little bonus, for using an amiibo. Sometimes it brought a nice wolf boy in there too.
So I also like how that worked in Happy Home Designer, and like just having those like just to get special items, or if you want the cards to get like specific townspeople. Yeah. Like that's just a fun way to use them, I think.
Yeah, I think Mario Kart's a cool way too. It's just cosmetic there as well. Little things like that.
Mario Maker, I thought, was the best implementation, where you go like, oh my god, do they really all work? And you start scanning and seeing all these outfits. I thought that was really good. I'm actually not opposed to it being a way to get DLC. The problem is, though, that amiibo have been so frustrating to find. Like, the ones you want are so hard to find that when it locks away a part of the game that you can't get any other way,
you have them all. They can't be that hard to find.
Super frustrating. And I had a bunch of help from NVC listeners, some folks working at GameStop who helped me find them, actually.
I want to hear that story, like how you got all the amiibo.
Check out this week's NVC
before
vlog.
I was not gray. Yeah. I was not gray before I started. But yeah, I actually don't mind if, for example, the Zelda DLC came, like you bought a package with an amiibo and that unlocked the DLC, and then separately you'd be able to buy it just as DLC online. I'd be totally fine with that.
Yeah.
But the locking away of content without the ability to actually get the freaking amiibo, that's a problem.
Well, that's what makes it tough, right? I mean, I still see like the Wolf amiibo was going for like $75 on eBay.
Damn, really?
That sucks. If you just want to play that game with a cool wolf, like you got to pay all that money. That's more money than the game costs. It's
I have two. If you need to borrow one.
See, you're the problem. This is what we're saying right here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think
Travis Grant asks, do you think we'll see an updated Switch, i.e. more storage, more colors, etc.? If so, what quarter of what year do you think we'll first see it? Personally, I was wondering if we'd see a Mario Switch console, given how big this game is projecting, but I wanted to know your feelings too. You think we'll get like special edition Switches?
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo is like pretty famous for doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Especially on their handheld devices. They've done this for years.
Switch isn't a handheld.
What's that?
So the Switch isn't a handheld.
Well, I know it's a little bit of both, though, right? Like,
kind of.
Yeah.
So my thing is that it does not have a strap or a place for me to put keychains or straps. So it's not a handheld.
Oh man.
Oh.
That's my
You
indicator.
sure? Can you wedge
also, I
it?
asked
Can't
Reggie,
you
and he
wedge
said
it
it's not
in
a
somewhere?
handheld.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
Yeah,
Reggie said that?
That's totally fair. I feel like they've also done special edition consoles for like
No,
Wii U and
absolutely.
stuff
Like
that.
they're gonna do. There's no question they'll do that.
Yeah.
You
But
got me
they
all, you
don't-
got me all like tripped up right now thinking about like
I feel like most
if
of
it's a
their
handheld or not.
It's a console that has a handheld mode.
function.
Like that's kind of how they have positioned it.
I feel like most of their
You need danglies, huh?
Yeah, I have one on all my DSs.
Okay.
I have
What about
multiple
the Game
DSs.
Boy, the original Game Boy? Can you dangle?
They probably did have one.
What about the
for
iPhone? Can you
straps.
dangle?
You can
No,
dangle.
because it sucks.
But from the case?
Yes, I have cases that have that because it's really important to me to have my Pikachus with me everywhere.
Got it.
Well, there will be a
And
special
Gratama or
edition of
whatever.
the Switch with dangly hooks. Well, obviously you can do some stuff with the cases. That's what happens with mobile games. I think there'll be a special edition. I think Nintendo is going to upgrade the hardware.
Yeah,
There's
me too.
no doubt in my mind. They have looked at the market and said consumers will upgrade machines. Look at the 3DS, and they're going to do it again with.
Oh,
this
absolutely!
machine.
Like I would
No question.
100% buy an upgrade. for the Switch because
I think it's going to take a while. I think 2018, holiday 2018 is when you're going to get your next iteration of the Switch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah,
That's soon.
I don't think anything sooner than that is too soon.
I think
especially given the scarcity, like it's getting better now, but the idea that the Switch is coming up on being out for a year, well, not quite, but like like soon it will be. I think that people who are still looking for them are going to be bummed if there's like a second version of them that's already readily available.
I do not think we'll see a more powerful version of the Nintendo Switch in the next 2 years.
Me either,
Definitely
actually.
not.
And I don't want them to do that.
No, I don't either.
I just bought this.
And look at the new Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah.
They did almost nothing with that.
I mean, how long did it take for the PlayStation and the PS4 Pro? That was 2013 to 2016 , right?
Yeah, it took a while longer.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's 3 years.
That's a completely different company, different concept too. I mean, that's like a home console trying to.
I want to see how long it took them to do the DS to the DS Lite to DSi. I think DSi was a bigger one.
It was slow at first, but
Yeah.
there have been lots of iterations now.
See, I feel like it was like rapid
Go
fire.
through the history of the DS.
Well, the thing is
I'm down.
with Nintendo, they won't do this unless it's like there's something like actively suffocating their vision for making games, or if third parties are knocking down their doors
like
saying,
voice chat.
Well, that's a separate issue.
Sick burn.
I mean, putting a headphone
we have
jack on a
Discord
controller
for.
is
That's
something
fine.
that you can do without
You
releasing
might
a new
need
console.
more RAM just to run kind of cross-game chat. Like I could see an upgrade like that, where it is important to a certain segment of the audience, and they'll say like, "Oh, I'll buy the new one," but everybody who already bought it won't feel like, "Oh, I'm now a generation behind."
Right.
Like I think 4K, 4K update. That's a bigger.
That's a
update
huge
for the
update.
machine.
The system
Yeah,
can
that-
already output to 4K. It just doesn't.
Stream.
It can't even output to 1080p on
It
its
can't
home menu
run
right now, but it
anything.
can.
It could do for streaming video.
I think if you have third parties going like, "Hey, we have a vision for a game for Switch, but we can't do it. Like, help us out." Then
Yeah.
Nintendo, if there's hundreds of third parties saying that, Nintendo will go, "Okay." But if they're selling, 10 million, 20 million a year off of last gen hardware effectively, then why would they need to change the thing?
Yep. Well, we'll see. In the meantime, we will definitely get special editions like this, right? I'm holding up the Splatoon. This in
Right.
Japan, you could buy the Splatoon special edition with these controller colors. But of course, the core console is the same thing.
I think we'll
Yeah.
get red and blue Joy-Cons for Mario.
I hope
Yeah.
we have a few more coming out in like the holiday season. I'd love to get more Joy-Cons that are different colors
Same.
and different
Yep.
themes.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
tired
last
of my
question.
gray ones.
What we got?
David asks, I recently managed to order a new Switch in Canada after setting up an alert for several online retailers. However, because of the basic design and semi-mobile use of the console, I'm already looking at accessories that will make it easier to use or add a bit of protection. I was wondering which accessories or add-ons are must-haves. Do you need a screen protector? Are controller straps a must? Would love to see what your Switch setups are like. Regards, David. I put together a short list of my stuff, but I don't know what you guys...
So I have the standard cases
From Nintendo,
From
right?
Nintendo.
Official
So
first
I have
party
the
one.
official, the one that came in out in the US that's black, and I feel like that has enough protection. It has that kind of like felt feeling stand in the middle that protects your device as well. And then I bought the Splatoon special edition from Japan.
Yeah, the cool thing about that case is
get
it doubles
in
as
Europe too.
a kickstand on the inside of it.
Exactly. So
Oh.
I feel
Yeah.
like that's enough.
I didn't even know that. I have this too. I got the
you have that
Splatoon
one?
one. I have the plain one.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, you can just like pop it that way or that way. It holds up a bunch of games and like it's got a. So I think like for cases, if you are going digital, then you can get something like that. If you're a physical collector, get something with a bunch of pockets for.
So the
plenty of
fatter
those too.
ones, they're slightly fatter ones, harder cases. I wouldn't go for the soft cases though. There are a whole bunch of them out there. Andrew had one on the show last week, the Zelda one he imported. Like
pouch.
Any pressure on those, like you can damage the screen. So
Yeah.
I'd be a little careful with that if you're tossing it into your bag.
Yeah, I think in terms of like must-haves, it's case, screen protector if you're popping it in and out of your dock a lot.
The Hori stand I like. Do you like the Hori stand?
I have a
I
different
haven't
stand
used
actually
Which
that I
one
like
do you have?
better. I have this one from this company called Lamicall. It's Lamicall. You can play in vertical mode. You can adjust it to like varying degrees. I saw on the Hori one, there's pretty much just like one or two positions for it.
Yeah, you can do vertical on that too.
Oh, interesting.
It'll work. But yeah, the Hori one, it has a pass-through so you can plug it in while you have it on the stand, which
yeah.
I like for
That's cool.
airplanes.
Same.
I saw a Daiso like little baby art stand that you could get for like a painting, and that works.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get that soon because it's $1.50.
A lot of iPad stands work too.
I
think that's the company I have is that they have one of those. Hori also makes good cases. The tempered glass screen protector is the most important thing. I think it's the same one you have.
The one
right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, it's from a company called AM Film. There are 2 in the pack for $9.
They're specifically made for the Switch.
Yep. They fit it perfectly. What I did was I dusted off my screen like crazy, and then I applied it underneath one of those fans like above your oven.
Oh.
Yeah. So like, the oven, so when you make some real smoky food or whatever because you screwed up, you just go under there, it gets all the dust off your screen, and then put the screen protector on. Works perfectly for me. If yours shatters for some dumb reason, you get another one. So
do you have to cook, or can you do another method?
You have to be cooking the entire time.
It has to burn?
Don't cook your Switch.
Okay.
And then I also got a Rav Power battery portable charger. It was
that's one I'm missing.
Yeah, it's like 30 or $40 maybe.
We have an article on IGN. If you just search for IGN, and we feature them in our daily deals article, but just the power bricks and stuff. You have to use one when you're going on
when you're traveling
and when you're on a trip.
Yeah, if you don't charge it, it's not gonna last.
I gotta get one before Germany.
This one I believe gives you like 3 or 4 full charges. So when you're playing a game like Zelda and you're on the 12-hour flight, or even like I fly to New York all the time, it's a 6-hour flight. It's so easy to just crush through that battery.
And don't use the dinky ones that are just for phones. Like look for the ones that have higher voltage for tablets, for example.
For USB-C stuff specifically.
In a lot of cases, the smaller ones will charge, but you will keep running down the battery, so it just extends it. Mm-hmm. Whereas the bigger bricks will actually charge your device while you're playing it.
In some cases, your Switch will charge your device.
Yeah,
that's true, which is weird.
And I have not run into a Joy-Con running out of battery. Obviously, Nintendo released the ARMS.
You have so many of them.
Battery, maybe that's why, huh? Oh, no, but have you run out of battery?
No,
never.
I have.
Yeah.
Never.
You have?
Not all the way out, but I've gotten warnings that my batteries are low in my Joy-Con.
Yeah, I have once or twice while playing Zelda.
Okay. Yeah. See, I never felt the need to get the add-on chargers that use regular batteries.
Yeah, no,
that you can buy for ARMS.
Is that from like you guys playing with the grip? The batteries?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the batteries last like 10 times longer than the Switch itself does.
I always
said,
played Pro Controller too.
For the first 2 months that I had my Switch, I played it almost exclusively with the Joy-Con grip.
Right.
Docked. So.
Yeah, I do that a lot just because I like having Zelda big on my TV.
Yeah.
But the essential add-on is a USB-C cable plugged into the back of the Switch. Just let it dangle behind your credenza or wherever you set it up. So when you're not playing with your Pro Controller, credenza made you laugh, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fancy pants. But
So
plug it in while you're not playing it.
To go with my Rav Power battery charger, I got a thing. It's from a company called iOrange because everyone just has stupid names on Amazon. It's a USB-C 6-foot cable. It was dirt cheap, really durable. I really like it. I fly with it all the time. That's that, and the 200 gigabyte memory card was priceless for me.
But there isn't a lot of other stuff. I mean, you can. There are no third-party docks yet. I mean, there's some dock mods where you have to. Nintendo doesn't allow anybody to make that connection yet, so no third-party docks yet. Hopefully that'll become a reality in the future, but right now, I mean, the accessories game is pretty slim for the Switch, wouldn't you say?
There's
not a lot
honestly,
you can do with it.
I would go so far as to say the most important accessory that you can get with your Switch is the Pro Controller.
I still don't have one.
They're getting a little easier to find now, and they are expensive, but I no hyperbole. This is for sure my favorite controller ever. Like the way it feels in your hands, like it is a perfect controller. I love it. Yeah,
I like it a lot.
Yeah, I dig it too. Good questions. Where can people ask these questions if they want to be featured on the show?
These were sent to our email. We try to cycle through where we get the questions from. You can hit us up at nvc@ign.com, or you can follow us on Twitter
it's at NVC Podcast.
There we go. Or you can join our Facebook group. That's groups.com/.
Groups.com.
I say groups.com.
Wrong podcast.
Search for Nintendo Voice Chat Podcast Forums.
Yeah,
that's right. So go check those out. Usually we pop in there and try to ask for questions, or just send us an email, follow us on Twitter.
Honestly, you can post questions on YouTube too, because we're in there a lot as well.
Yeah.
Jeez, how convenient.
Yeah. So many places to find you, and we will find you.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And that brings us, that's scary. That brings us to the end of our show this week. If you like NVC and you want to support us, the best way to do that is to watch the shows. Subscribe to us on iTunes, or your favorite podcast feed. Go on YouTube and find the Nintendo Voice Chat channel, because we broke it out from our main IGN channel. It's a small fledgling channel, I think just under 30,000 subs. Subscribe, leave us feedback there. We love hearing from our fans. If we goof, post a correction. We're happy to hear that too, especially Zach.
Zach loves goofing.
Yeah.
Spoofing and goofing, that's my middle name.
Like if somebody were to call a great game designer Michael by accident, for example, you can
classic Zach move.
You can leave the comment there. We will be back next week with more interesting topics. If you can't wait that long, there are other podcasts you should check out. I referenced Game Scoop earlier, where the crew talked about the Nintendo Switch. Lots of Nintendo Switch fans in the office, so Game Scoop is another good podcast to subscribe to. And do watch the IGN show.
Yes, please.
Miranda is on it. She's all over it. And there were lots of Nintendo segments in the last couple of episodes. So do check that out. And that was the chime that means we have to go and help some other children. So tune in next week.